Do. Ooh, bounce. All right, back at it again, ladies and germs. The fight continues. I've gotten some news. There's things going on. Nothing's stopping. Um, I know our friend isn't real happy, but as I promised last night, the live stream cut off on me. I don't know if how I lost the connection, if my laptop heated up. I don't know, but it happened. I'm going to try to keep this at under 45 minutes, but we have a guest tonight. And this person, let me read the disclaimer first, since this is going to be nothing I'm giving. Like I said, it's about giving people the floor. I don't have to agree with you, disagree with you, be indifferent. It doesn't matter. From now on, you got something to say, I'm giving everyone the platform. Disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed by guests appearing on Equine Advocacy Alliance live streams are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the views, positions, or policies of Equine Advocacy Alliance. We are not responsible for any statements, claims, or opinions made by our guests. That's that. This person, you know her. You know of her. She's been heavily involved in the fight. She's been heavily involved in a lot of things that are going on. I've said over the years, we have butt heads many times, and I mean viciously sometimes, but it's like, again, two sides of the same coin. We're in the same fight. We just see it from different perspectives. I have my way, others have their way, and this person has her way. So I'm not going to hesitate. She said she's got a lot to say regarding what's going on, what's happened. This may be more than a one-part thing. So to get right to it, you all know her. Alice Allen.
How are you, Mike? How are you?
You got the floor. I told you, jump right into it. I'm going to sit back and listen.
Well, Mike, first of all, thanks for having me and the ability to be able to speak, because I've been silent a long time. But a few individuals, a fellow named Steve, Dick, Fred, and a guy named William Wallace in Cagney, they cheered me on to go ahead and go on your show. Mm-hmm. And what I got to say is, the sport is at a peril where it's so divided. And a lot of your show has been about the federal investigation and the perpetrators of the sport. Mm-hmm. But in my opinion, we should all be screaming because of the division. And the federal trial said a whole lot of where the industry is today, and it revealed a lot. I compiled a file, read every court exhibit, read every transcript, and everyone stayed silent. You covered the trials a little bit, the most you could. But what was said in those trials shakes the industry to its knees. Now, why I came on is because I spent a lot of time, a lot of money, retrieved every exhibit that I could possibly retrieve. Mm-hmm. And I sent them to all the commissions, or the majority of the commissions. Sent them to the John Campbell, the Hamiltonian Society, to the Meadowlands, and to USTA. And I said it's time to have a sit down so that everyone becomes knowledgeable, and that maybe they could work together, and maybe that they could try to save the sport, because they need to actually save the sport from itself. And that division became recognizable. The two people that responded, that agreed to a sit down, oddly, was USTA and Gorell.
Wait, and Williams and Jeff don't get along, if I understand, right?
I don't know, but in the real world, it's okay to disagree and still be friends. and have a common ground.
Work together.
And maybe they don't disagree, but both people love racing. And it's okay to disagree. You and I disagree.
Mhm.
My husband and I disagree. But what I will say to you is we should all agree that the sport is in trouble. And the United States of America recognized it. And at the end of the day, what became apparent, me personally, I was very for federal regulation, for change. And to this day, I am. Because as you see right now, none of the commissions till recently stepped up, read the information, tried to pursue the perpetrators, no one tried. And oddly, they've given answers to me. Their answers were they were embarrassed because it happened in their tenure. They were the judges. They were the commissions. They were didn't have the funding. Their answers were it would take the industry to its knees.
Mhm.
But my belief is it needs to be taken to its knees. Because no one speaks for the horses. No one speaks for those oppressed people who continually fight for their fourth place money.
Right.
And that's what they're up against. They're up against one of the biggest drug wars there is. And all of us, quarter horse racing, thoroughbred racing, standardbred racing, they should be fuming right now. And you've said it a couple times on your show. They established
Furious.
federal regulation, HISA, HIWA, and it's hard for me to accept that Lisa Lazarus, who runs HISA, represented the sheiks. And she worked for Morgan Sports Law. None of us ever heard of her.
Mm-mm.
But she represented those sheiks. And why it's become upsetting to me that she represented UAE and Abu Dhabi, and why it becomes upsetting to me is during this whole federal procedure, anyone in standardbred racing knew that Fishman was going overseas. We all knew his character. But a federal regulated body run by Lisa Lazarus, and no one knew that she was with Morgan Sports Law and represented these people.
I didn't know.
And that exhibit that I provided, the United States of America had to defend itself against lawsuits from Dubai Equine and from UAE because they wanted their drugs back.
I read that.
And it was amazing. And in those invoices, 1,200 bottles of BB3, BB1, VO2 max, Demorphin. It was scathing. They said they needed it for their camels. All right, they needed it for the camels. But they are the largest owner in the United States of America. So the standardbred industry gets knocked to its knees. The quarter horses, their top two fellas, they get dropped because of their investigations, and rightfully so. The standardbred people, they just had a mere acceptance. But no one talks about the big people. And in the federal trials, March 2nd, 2023, Seth Fishman released his invoices. He didn't release them in the trial. He didn't release them in the trial. Anyone knows you just follow the money.
Is that what I referred to as the 5,007 pages?
Yes. But really, in the scheme of things, there's 20,000 pages. All in a hard drive, all stored in the cloud. And in that proceeding, in his own way, he did it right to the little guys in his own way. And they read the transcripts. They gave the largest purchasers that were repetitive purchasers. And numerous names were redacted. Numerous names were disclosed. And when you read the exhibits and you see exhibits that say Burke Stable, you see Brett Pellet, you see Antonacci, you see the largest in this industry and the smallest. So you would think that all the leaders would have read everything and devoured it and said, we need to sit together. We need legislation. We need to force the commissioners to do their job or get rid of them. I've spoken to USDA and voiced opinions. And I've said, hey, look, how do you say it's okay? Everyone's worried about how you're testing today. And these minute amounts are resulting in positives and resulting from a contamination. I'll have to tell you, they need to go straight to heck. Because all they needed to do was read the transcripts.
They were just making excuses.
Well, Fishman and Dr. Ryan, it became apparent in there they were just, it would test as Dex, it would test as ACE, it was test as methamphetamines, because they would just alter the structure just a tiny bit. Mm-hmm. And it would be testing at low levels.
I remember when I read in the testimony, 1 molecule.
Yes, and that's all they would do. I think, now you had talked about the painkiller yesterday. Mm-hmm. Now they have a new one. And it's very similar to that, made from the scales of the amphibians. But no one cares. And you have to care enough. And I think that's what becomes apparent. Mike, you've got nothing to lose, but you had everything to lose. You had your horses, you had your life.
It was happiness.
It was a peace for yourself that here, I'm done with the rest of the life and I'm going forward. Now you got a temper, you articulate things differently.
You know all about that. Jeff knows all about that. Jason knows all about that. Everyone knows about that.
But it doesn't mean you're wrong. Because the reason I have sent you documents, because everyone knew they've been doing this to everyone for years. And I thank Geraldo for that. Because they come out, the retribution is severe. Mm-hmm. Everyone in New York knows I raised my right hand against Dr. Sachs. All the horsemen had positives, and it was him.
I remember that
they were losing their health insurance, getting kicked off the track.
I thought you were crazy back then. I still think you are.
I raised my right hand.
I remember it all. It was nuts.
And the retribution was severe. But at the end of the day, I shouldn't have had to raise my hand because they had a taped confession. And it was so odd because Even Ferraldo's horse tested positive that day. It was a horse trained by Romano in the name of Josephine Ferraldo. And he won. So they made it, and they always made it clear that they would make an example of me.
Mm-hmm.
They made it very clear. I would try to go to the commissions, try to talk, say, here, this is, it's apparent. But I will tell you this. Everyone sees it. I just happened to see it a little too early. You know, Sachs at that time was given the largest fine in the history of racing. Who came to their defense was Tom Grossman, blue chip fine.
Mm-hmm.
Created fake bills, created fake this, thought they could make you go to their knees. But everybody knew why. So I tell the horsemen all the time, stand up for yourself. You have to be able to speak. Because in order to effectuate change, people need to know what they're changing. And I'll tell you what they should need to change is one, the testing. They need to stop this division. Everyone was worried who's going to make the first move. See, USTA is a record-keeping agency, always has been. That's all. They never had the power to suspend. You know, they could take your USTA license, but big deal. All right.
I think that is a big deal, but anyway, that's where we disagree.
Well, I know, but they could take your USTA license in a heartbeat. But when they do, they better be informed when they take it. And we'll just use actions. It's like letting Ross Cohen's license expire while taking other individuals' license. Ross Cohen admitted he sold, he made, he talked, right?
Right.
Saying like a true individual in the courtroom. But he kept his license just till this year was expired. But there was reason, I think. Because in that agreement, that cooperation agreement, that they wouldn't go after for sports bribery, this and that. It's all there in black and white if anyone cared to read these exhibits. But what's really concerning is that 5,007-page exhibit, an additional 15,000 that I'll start adding to that files, was unbelievable. And although redacted, government makes mistakes sometimes too. They left the horses' names. And one by one, I went through each name, matched it on Pathway, cross-referenced trainers, owners. It's all there of who was buying and what these horses raced off of. And it's really scary.
That's what's,
especially for no accountability.
and that's what's
And
led.
what's really scary is when you see race secretaries, when you see judges, when you see fellas that run racetracks in New York. There has to be an embarrassment somewhere in the middle, like with a guy like Joe Morris that runs Caesars. He's got more family members in the federal transcripts than anyone. I think there's Silverman, Mark Beckwith, Lisa Gianelli, Ranger. They're all there. That's got to be an embarrassment to hold the position of Caesars. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable by all of us. It's unacceptable. Like Gluck Research is run by Branahan. They nominated him out and about a few years before that. That Branahan is the U.S. representative for Godolphin, and they sued us, right? To buy equine, they sued us for those drugs. So I don't know. They won the Kentucky Derby. They won the Oaks. No one wants to talk about it. But I'd like to. What makes them any different than the rest of us? They weren't prosecuted. Their lawyer ended up running HISA, for God's sakes. Something's wrong with the picture.
I didn't know that till you just told me that.
Yes.
I had no idea that Lazarus was working for them.
Yes. Matter of fact, it's really neat. You read these transcripts, they had the Olympic vet, Jeff Vernon. All right. Jeff Vernon, the Canadian equestrian team, the Olympic vet, the U.S. Olympic Federation. Look him up. He's in the wiretaps. I posted his wiretaps in that document that I made. Right. Then, after the indictment with this in the wiretaps, he was the expert witness for Lisa Lazarus with Morgan Sports Law. You can't make it up. You just can't make this stuff up. And I give HISA credit because they're trying. But I also know the people that are the experts and the advisories and all this. One, you need to know horses. Two, I was surprised when a guy like Howard Jacobs, he's an attorney, ends up on that advisory committee or temporary committee for a while. Because in my opinion, these 4 and 5 lawyers, Jacobs, Taylor, the Feraldos, the Drew Malikas, these guys that all, look, even Beltrami, judges, lawyers, all buying illegal drugs. Their names are all there. How in the heck can a lawyer that swears to his profession not disclose his conflicts of having a state license and competing against the very people that he's representing, and signs application that they're going to comply with investigations? It doesn't make any sense, but I think the ethics board can take those situations up. Or perhaps this industry will be smart enough to recognize it and say, hey, look, we can't do this anymore. Maybe they could, you take, for example, New Jersey. New Jersey, it's a cesspool. I mean, I went there a few years ago after reading the transcripts. I went to their commission. I went to an open meeting. And I asked for the investigation of John Tomasello and Mark Ford. Because in these transcripts, the information was just so damning. And it was tough to go there, to stand up. But I passed out a flyer to Judith Mason and the rest of their board and showed them what Ron Dancer had said. I mean, they covered up the crimes worse than the crimes itself. I mean, in Conversations of Record, 2 years prior to the indictment, Ford's asking Nick if they caught on to Navarro yet. Well, how would he know anything about Navarro? What they supposed to catch on to?
Who did he ask?
He asked him if they'd caught on to Navarro yet.
No, who did Ford? Who do you say Ford asked about Navarro?
Yes, in the records, in the Conversations of Records, he asked Nick, "Hey, have they caught on to Navarro yet?"
Nick.
No?
Nick
Zurich.
Okay, you got to say the name so people understand.
I'm sorry, Nick Zurich. Yeah, he asked about it. And then I'm reading the transcripts, and that fellow that testified, Jamin Davidovich, he went to Mark Ford's to meet Fishman. And heck, if you lived in the Goshen area like I did, Gianelli went there every Tuesday. What's no secret? The federal exhibits show that as well. It's no secret, right? And they're still employed there. And they still threaten the people like they came after you. I think that's probably why he stole your phone. You know, I felt terrible. I think you did a show on that World of Secrets. When those girls called me up, when they killed World of Secrets there, that Rhodes and Clegg over at Marks, they all lied about it. These people have never held accountability for lying. Not at all.
Well, I believe it was T.C. Lane who told me that the story didn't match up. And they finally, whatever it was, 2 years later, suddenly the horse has a death date on his registration.
Yeah.
And that's when and then the owners, I forget their name all the time. They got hold of me. Not the owners, the breeders, the people from the Midwest that bred him.
Yeah.
They contacted me. And, but I didn't fully understand that until I had someone from his farm contact me.
Yeah.
And that started.
It's pathetic. You know, that film out there, oh, they say it's not against the law. Walking those brood mares over to the manure pit to get shot in the head. It's inexcusable.
It's a morality thing, is what and now I could tell you.
There's a social license in that. When that girl wrote that book, that Betty Bo Lewis, Katie Bo Lewis, CNN reporter. And she said the mindset has to change. Horses aren't like chattel. And the acceptability of a social license.
Well, that's what Jan Golden, the investigator from New York State Troopers, first confirmed who had the video that I had of the gunshots and that truck and trailer, who owned those horses. But it is not illegal. They are still livestock, and it's a battle that I've taken
understandably, but it's also some things.
Well, it doesn't mean
change.
This is one thing I do want to state, because it's what hits home with me with the horses is, they are just meat to these people. The same fight 100%. I have in harness racing, carriage horses, whatever. And when you talk about the people who are doing this, right, and have been caught in the act, they're the same people in control of how much money from the state of New York, Department of Agriculture, New York Sire Stakes, Breeders' Awards, a breeder who benefits from it. That's another battle. My battle, okay, which is just outside.
Understandably, but what I don't understand is how they sit on the boards and they can advise.
That's my point. Exactly.
I can come back to say, okay, the articles in foreign countries, the Americans are killing our horses. And when they recalled all the meat from Stouffer's, Burger King, Taco Bell, because they all found all these drugs in them, right? Well, you aren't drugging your backyard horse that ended up in for human consumption. That's highly unlikely. But we don't have that right. And cattle industry are afraid of us because, they call them livestock. But we domesticated the horses.
Right. They need us.
There's not a person in this country that doesn't love horses. Lance Armstrong could talk. The woman and the cyclist that exposed him, they could talk. Mm-hmm. Horses can't talk.
Right.
And these powerful leaders have caused so much severe retribution about the people that can speak, that they crawl in their rooms, they hide. And they hide and they hide and they can't talk. I mean, there's a gentleman when they killed that horse, All or Nothing, down in Kentucky, State Colt. That man that took care of him, he snapped. And what they do, they threatened him.
Mm-hmm.
Or, God rest his soul, but Frank Saravino, when he robbed a large and all those guys of their drugs, they beat him like a redheaded stepchild.
Oh,
Absolutely. You know, it's so unjust. But going back, how do you move forward? Does Jersey? They moved forward in their own way. They removed Tomasello on September 8th and called it retirement. He got his pension. Instead, he should have been prosecuted because he covered up for Nick for years. He helped these guys accomplish their goals. It's sickening. Ford, the Jersey law says he's supposed to be a resident of their state. Yes, he's got an apartment, but his USDA licenses Campbell Hall. It's income tax statements, say New York. So we all know different. You know, they've all got their positions, and they have to protect the cloth. And their new commissioner, that's Sarah McDavid, they're protecting the cloth well, because I took all the information, gave it to them, spoke about it. Or maybe it's just they didn't know how to investigate it. But they knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And they helped the criminals. You were racing New York. I mean, Don Hoover races a racetrack. He used to be with Josh Marsh, Tracy Brainerd, race secretary.
I remember when a certain individual who owned a farm in Bullville used to call him directly to put in his entries when he wasn't down as trainer. And a certain individual who's still never been banned from anywhere who profit off that is still racing unchallenged.
100%.
One of the boys that worked for him.
And it's sad because did Williams know? No. Did T.C. Lane know? I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Let me ask you a question. And that name, I keep getting mixed reviews, and I've spoken to him. They're all guarded anytime I try to contact them, or if I do contact them. Is TC on the side of right or no? That you're aware of in your dealings with him?
Look, I believe Mr. Lane and TC Lane is on the side of right. I believe that his position is to promote the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he does not know how to advance this. And we'll give an example. All right.
Well, I just want to clarify he is a vote on the executive board, correct?
Well, I believe so. I don't go to that politics. I just know what their titles are. But I'll give you an example, all right? The sanctions, Diamond Creek, Benson, all those people.
Right.
Right? They attacked USTA so bad. And it was almost a powerless position for them, all right? Yes, they got, those individuals got sanctioned. But in the real world, when you're hiding the assets of a convicted felon and the government is searching for him, right? That's called, and you don't want it to be known, but you got exposed. It's kind of like obstruction of justice.
That's come up a few times.
They could have taken that right for obstruction of justice, but didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys are screaming. And sorry, you were screaming for a long time. I'm getting out of the business, this and this. Shoot, Jeffrey Brooks taught me all about Eric Cherry. And so these things have been going on a long, long time. So some of these bigger people, when they get caught with their pants down, own it. Own it.
Okay, well, you know what, Alice? Remember I said when we put this together that maybe we'll do this over a few live streams, and maybe we'll bring in some of the people that you've spoken with as well. So let me stop you there and skip to the big questions and what you know on your end about what's happening right now. And we'll start with the obvious name, Howard Taylor. As of right now, what are you getting from your intel?
Well, I'm different than most. I read his filings. I pulled them off of Pacer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, his filings. And look, when I read those transcripts and on page 197 and 198, and it said that Howard Taylor called to testify, he'd say it was true and accurate that he maintained it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it proceeds with two other exhibits. Well, I got those exhibits. It's a government stipulation signed by Sarah Mortazavi and Lisa Gianelli's lawyer, Mr. Fazoo. So there must be truth and accuracy. But what's really accurate is they disclosed his account number in Exhibit 16,000, 705 and 2022.
That's the number that is burned in my memory is 705.
Yes. So then when Fishman released those exhibits in 705 and 222, all you had to do was read them. And you knew who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew what they brought. And when you looked at USDA's pathway and they're registered to him, there was no question. But I think the word on the street, the word, or there's no word. It's just blatant.
Right.
Blatant. He did an interview on Daily Racing Form with one of those magazines, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the government went through thousands of pages and they didn't see anything wrong. Come on. All right. They could have taken probably 500 more people, taken him to jail. They didn't. They left it to the states. But what's really concerning is the division that he has caused with an entire sport.
Yeah.
Because of the partnerships with the biggest people and the lies. I mean, there's one page when you leave the book. If anyone decides to go through and they start looking, page 123, that exhibit 1299-119. I mean, it's got Deja Vu Blue, Foolish Heart,
that's the one.
Unserved, all these horses
Mm-hmm.
getting all these drugs, VO2 max, 10 pounds of thyroid, equine growth hormones. It's crazy. And what people didn't follow in those transcripts is, Fishman saying, hey, we just changed the peptide for this part of the country in case a bottle gets picked up, it doesn't take down everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fishman saying the horsemen, the trainers can't have all this because 10% of all trainers are snitches.
Right.
Right? It's so on the opinion of Taylor, own it. Because really, if he wants the truth out there, 2009, he hooked up with Brooks. In 2009, they started a game that opened up the doors and continued that game and criminal enterprise for all these years. And oddly, Kentucky, I thought, did a good job. I really thought that they, when I listened to that hearing. But then as you read and you keep reading, July 3rd, 2024 is an interview of Taylor. And I was shocked when I listened to that audio and that tape at the Kentucky Racing Commission.
Oh, the one that they took down and I snagged it.
No, not that one. There's one a year prior.
Oh wait, what?
A year prior, you had the hearing from this year.
Oh, okay.
But there's a tape a year prior, and he is so slanderous He's sitting there talking about the U.S. attorney put in false information. I kind of doubt that.
Well, that's a lawyer
Right.
being a lawyer.
And
He's going to deny, and
it
spin.
said that he met with 3 regulators over this with Jeff. No, he met with those Standardbred Breeders Association guys. One of them's got an EPO positive, and the other one, Ponto, is in these exhibits buying the BB3 with him. Does Ponto know? Don't know. But it sure shows an account number where he paid for it. So maybe these people need to say, hey, there's a truce. Instead of dropping the industry to its knees, coming up with a solution. Get rid of these guys, the Kevin Lairs, the Josh Greens. Some Blue Chips purchases were extensive. Get them gone. And they didn't just buy like therapeutics. Fishman didn't just release this therapeutic guys. He didn't release those little guys that are just trying to eke out a living and knew that they couldn't compete. There's guys that he released that bought 98 bottles at a time. You know, they questioned why Gorell maybe banned McNair. Heck, I didn't know. I didn't even know who McNair was. I live on a farm. But there's exhibits of him buying 24 bottles of TB7, and it wasn't like he just bought them once. So, you know, the industry needs to come together. I think USGA, I think they recognize it. I think that recognition is hard to accept because they've sat down with dinner with these guys, never realizing who they were in the real world. But they didn't care. They did not care about the horses. I mean, that's the death of Bad Horse Big Boy Dreams was sickening. All right. To watch these horses explode on the track, it's sickening.
Well,
I know when you get in trouble, you own it.
Well, we're done.
When I do something wrong, I own it. These guys can't own it. You know, Mike, I learned one thing in this federal trial when I read. It's funny how Fishman's lawyer Sarkaz, he was Brooks's lawyer. All right. All Fishman did was to go ahead and try to become a David Brooks.
Didn't they have a trainer common denominator as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just hilarious.
Is that the individual from Canada?
Yeah, Fishman's in the transcripts. And even in this trial, the David Brooks trial and this trial, the names just kept coming up, and it's the same people. I mean, you research online, and it's not my job. It should have been the commissions, USDA, whoever.
Well, this is where I was going to go with this to start to like wind it down to wrap it up. Was okay. Like I said last night, if you watched the whole video, was we've reached a point where I had the clipboard and just the example of a few states. There's even people that were fighting me for a long time on social media on another forum that I won't say its name, but they're even getting it to the point where they're saying, and they're posting the rules like Ohio and the word that keeps coming up, reciprocity. All right.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up Ohio because I'll say this. I sent just that big file. I think I put it on Harness Racing Wrongs because no one would publish that file. That where everybody could have read it. The information. It's not my words. But I sent numerous exhibits to Ohio. There's like extractions, Brady Galliers, right?
Right.
Helping Nick Zurich on the Northern Virgin thing. There's Brady Galliers in there buying all these drugs. All right. How the heck wouldn't they do something? Said, wait a minute, you got to stop. How the heck would, well, thank God Wendy Ross moved away from him. I think it was Wendy that was his girlfriend. Thank God she cleaned up her act and left. But they did nothing, and Ohio is quiet right now.
Well,
It's funny. The New York is real quiet, and most of their activity happened up there.
and their reciprocity rule, and I keep holding this in my hand tonight, and the word that I keep repeating in my head, automatic. So what is
Right?
what are we waiting for?
Well, I tell you what, in New York, I think, I don't even know if he's licensed, but New York is a joke himself. I mean, Dr. Malin.
He has to be licensed. He's racing horses at Yonkers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But Yonkers is a whole nother story. Maybe if you ever do another one, I'd love to show you all that paper on Yonkers, because everyone is excluded from Yonkers except their team. And I mean, my God, they had a judge taken out. That was the draws were fixed. He was involved with the various a trainer there,
And everybody grazed over that, because I remember the raid last
and they
year.
let him keep his pension.
And
And
again,
now he's partners with the trainer that he helped fix the draws for. And that Lisa Lee did that investigation. And Joe Levinson's in Panama. I'm sure he would talk. But poor guy, Eric Jenner, he was furious there in New York and said that this was going to stop. But when you go through these records, like Prevost, he races a lot of horses at Yonkers. Why? He's purchasing all these EPO, right? Wants to say that they can all claim they don't know, but that's not what it says. The conspiracy charge was the purchasers.
mm-hmm.
And that Sarah Mortazavi said it right. She said, look, send a strong message, because these guys have got away with this with their greed, how people have been bullied. And I will tell every horseman that's out there, stop being bullied. Stand up for the truth. There's no such thing as a wrong idea. There's no such thing as the right way to articulate. And it's okay to be different. It is okay. And just because they say you got to, you don't have to. I know you have to feed your families. And if these jurisdictions and these commissions can't stand up, get rid of them. Change the law. Go federal. Do I agree with the USDA's federal proposals? No, because you can't sit with a Clara Fenger on a board that testified for Fishman. Or you can't have a Tobin who is going to the Dolphins. It's impossible. Somewhere in the middle there has to be transparency. Force these lawyers to disclose that their trainer that they're partners with is the one that tested positive. A lawyer can't go ahead when he's part of the crime, help cover it up, or they lose their law license.
Mm-hmm.
That hearing for Northern Virgin was the biggest disgrace of justice. That ruling, I think, on that Tiger case, one of the biggest injustices.
I still can't believe that one.
On that case there, that Attorney General, Eric Reed, stated before the courts that there was a hearing and a proceeding. And he said this on and that everybody voted no. There was no hearing, because the hearing was scheduled, signed by Judith Mason, for September 22nd. It was just a lie.
No. Now, Alice, what I want to do is I don't want to get too far off of where we are right now. So let's maybe save that stuff for another day. We're at 50 minutes. But I'm saying, right now, the big question and what we should focus on, at least and wrap this one up, is everything we got in front of us right now. you see what I've been doing. I know what you've been doing. I know what other people have been doing. We're getting, slowly one by one, states are starting to play ball, but it shouldn't stop. It should be across the board. Am I right?
100%.
Okay.
And I think if they take and review the records and those 15 or 20, part of the business will clean itself up to following it.
Mhm.
Maybe they could sit down and ask Joe, hey, what do you think about all your relatives being in those federal transcripts?
Well, I'm looking at, was there a draw tonight the draw is done for Hoosier, correct? For the Night of Champions?
I don't know. I don't really follow
no,
when
no,
they
it's,
draw
it,
or when
oh,
they
no,
don't. Or,
it's for,
I kind of recluse myself to just writing. And
I understand, but I haven't looked through it yet, but I want to see if everybody's favorite attorney in harness racing. Oh, we didn't isn't it ironic that, the guy who's the, it's clearly what he's done is the guy that helps all the bad guys in the game, right?
100%.
But I want to know, does he have horses in Friday at Hoosier?
I don't know. We'll have to look.
And what? And
you know who said it right? There was a case out there. Reading that case law, Bud Selig. I think he was the head of the Ontario Racing Commission, and he said it right. And he said one paragraph, and oddly, it's a case that Howard Taylor represented an individual on contamination on a positive. And he said, the owners of the racehorses owe an obligation to the horses. And they owe that obligation to protect the horses. And the owners owe an obligation of the people they employ. And their obligation is to the horses. He said it was a great quote that I wish every commission would read. But he said it right. And Taylor owes no obligation because everything that was set forth, the records were subpoenaed by him. He provided the records. He gave them his own partners' names and how much they owned. And those partners all paid for the same drugs that he used. I wonder how they feel today.
I've been trying to get that across to the people that are actually listening to me, that it implicates much more than just him. It also exposes, and one thing we agreed is the FBI established precedent that it's not about having a positive. It's about the purchase and intent now.
Oh, yes.
And you can't hide behind, I don't know.
What kills me is Fishman's words, all right? That the owners, all right, paid to make these exotic drugs. And I know that for sure because, like I said, I did business with Jeffrey Brooks. He taught me a lot. He said the business should be taken to its knees. And the records from that FBI agent, Angela Judd, they made them. They took the plane rides. They went, and all it did was follow through. You look at Picaro, he lost his license in the Brooks matter. That veterinarian, Eric Cates, Brooks owed him a ton of money. Why would Brooks owe him a ton of money, right? You look at that case, and it's really neat. I think that Cates guy was the same guy that was the vet for Penna with 1,700 violations. The circle didn't change. They just refused to regulate this industry. And they didn't think that it would catch up with them. So you got to thank the United States of America.
Well, that's what I say. I keep repeating. They did an amazing job. They gave us the
God.
weapon. They gave us the ammunition.
Mike, before you close, and I'll say that, you look at the job they did. 8 compound companies closed down, tried to stop the inflow, all right? Realized no one would try. Millions and millions in forfeiture from those 8 compound companies. They exposed the the UAE suing the country. All right.
I had
Can
no
you
idea about that
imagine
one.
having to fight for the United States and they're suing you for the drugs ban?
I
And
try,
then
you know how I compared that so people understood that? That would be like the drug cartels in South America suing the US so they can get their cocaine back.
that's exactly right.
It's the same
And then
freaking
wait a
thing.
minute. Then your main guy sits on these boards, or then you have like Bowden screaming at everybody, and he sits on Gluck's board as well, and then gets caught. The girl gets caught going in there supposedly drawing bloods and gets a $5,000 fine. Do you know what we would get for needles and syringes? Right? We couldn't compete in the Breeders' Crown, and yet they wanted to scream at USDA for giving a sanction. Right?
Yeah.
The scary part on all this stuff is they get a sanction for refusing to cooperate and get their records. Well, then get them gone. Bring the sport together and come up with a common solution. It's okay if we all disagree, but we don't have to keep condoning these bad actions, these criminals, and we definitely do not have to keep condoning the abuse of the horses.
It's not even condoning anymore. The more they're allowed to race, it's rewarding them.
Well, that's all we've ever done. That's all we've ever done. And you look at all you have to do is read those transcripts. I mean, and you know what's sad is you see these horsemen, unbelievable talent. Unbelievable talent.
There's a difference between horsemen
Never
and trainers.
stopping. Wait a minute. There's so many horsemen out there that are so unbelievably talented that they can't compete.
That doesn't win races.
They can't win a race.
You can't go up against the needle.
You can't go up against what this is. And all a person ever needed to do was ask Lance Armstrong, let him be the spokesperson for racing. Because it made him invincible. I wrote him a letter and asked
If there's
him.
anybody, I was going to say, I'd love to hear, because he could, remember we say the horse that has no voice. Can't, you know, well, here's a human being that was doing the same thing to himself. Like, okay, tell us, you know, as time progressed and you got, what did you feel like? Did you just feel like you just could never stop? It was,
I'll tell you, Mike, and it's a cute story, and then I'll let you know, I'll close.
Yeah, well, let's wrap it up in an hour. Yep.
I had an owner, his name was San Zapavina, and he lived there in Goshen.
I remember his farm down on 207.
Yeah. And I took care of him till he died. All right. At night, he got really sick, and his wife had passed with Alzheimer's. And Sam started getting weak. Yeah, he couldn't get up. He was in a walker and got to be kind of a mean person, right? Well, the home nurse came in and he'd gone to the doctor, and they put him on Aranesp. All right. And Mike, as an outsider, it's unbelievable. It gave him the quality of life, because this guy, he was confined. He needed a wheelchair and a walker. He never went past his living room. In a very short time, he was getting the mail. All right.
This stuff is, well, most of this stuff originally in its creation had genuine and innocent, applications, but it's like everything else. We can go back to baking soda, and when they figured that out.
And Jen knows an accountability to all of us too, because they know what they were doing. All the sports medicine doctors that they employed and the complaints that they've received, they've destroyed us. They owe an accountability, But that Sam Zapavina, he went from a cheap claimer to the open in a real short time. Kind of like that horse. What was his name that won the Gold Cup?
I don't know that side, so I don't know. Wait a minute. You're talking about up the Gold Cup this year up in Canada?
No. 2 years in a row. Mark's horse now.
Winners
of the 5,000s. What's it starts with the C, I
I was
think.
gonna say it starts with a C. I always forget the one
Yeah.
that he put. The one when Gillis got in trouble, suddenly he was for sale, and he was on
Yeah.
gate, and then he sold him, and then
Yeah.
he got him back. What the hell's his name?
Because he was no
I
good.
can't remember his name. Yeah, and Mark, and then the owner put on Mark is the greatest guy ever. He gave me my money back. Oh, and all I kept saying was, "Oh, shut up."
Yeah.
She's so full
Yeah,
of
that
shit.
just those stories kill me. But hopefully that maybe people will learn something. Maybe they'll go to that site, start reading the exhibits, or listen to the wiretaps. Maybe these commissions will get off their backs.
Oh, Alice, this is where you and I butt heads. Okay, I don't understand why it has to go that far. These effing commissions and governing bodies. At least look at what did AGCO hesitate last week?
That's right.
Within minutes. Did Standard Canada hesitate last week? The gentleman who actually for the first time and stated the actual reasons because of the federal investigations and the purchases, and he said word for word, Seth Fishman, equistology, da 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 da. Here it is. It's irrefutable, and you're out. You're not getting a license in Delaware.
Well, the one thing I'll say, and that's why you and my opinion just is strong. When I read all the laws of USTA, what you can do, what you can't do, they're so limited. So and they rely on the regulatory agencies. Well, the regulatory agents, most of them should be abolished because they can't do their job. They're inept.
It's not they can't. It's not that they can't. They won't.
Well, that's exactly right because they're told.
And because they're part of the friggin' problem.
100%.
That's what that really. That's what gets me to, and I don't know.
So the ones that act, you have to say, okay, and then you know as well as I do. Then you have the horsemen. Look, this is one guy. It's kind of funny, It's kind of like Jim Jones. Drink the Kool-Aid, right? And follow me. And they followed these guys all these years and didn't think there'd ever be a problem, and it's caught them. And it's the leaders. The big breeders control the entire industry, and they're making sure, and people don't recognize it. They're having meetings and saying, "Oh, we need lesser tracks, and the people with the dollars get to compete." They're driving out every working class person because they have their personal agenda, because they can.
You notice that where do you see more of the issue right now with, let's just say, filling your everyday overnight card? Which tracks are it? Does that happen? It's the little tracks.
That's exactly right.
That, wait a minute. They can't fill it in the Midwest. What's the small little track out there now? But Tioga, Vernon, sometimes, these little tracks that race for whatever have no handles, and they're literally evaporating because the little guys just can't survive.
Well, they can't.
And
you know what's so crazy? And they complain about the workforce and those big guys that drove them out. They hire these little guys that are far more talented than they ever thought about.
Well, that's where again, I always say that's where you find the horseman, the person who understands our horse. Trainers are the guys that are the businessmen, and basically a manager, an operations manager who call the vet or get hold of the guy that has this stuff, that has the edge or whatever. And the horses are just run through like a production line, and the claiming game and all that you see like mostly at Yonkers.
Yeah.
And then the upper echelon of guys that are out there right now buying the $1 million yearlings from themselves, which people don't understand that money is the same money that goes around in a circle.
That's exactly what it is.
The breeders run the game. The top trainers get those horses. You're basically selling to yourself. And then it kicks back up and starts over again the next year. People don't get that. They say, "Oh, well, why are horses selling for $1 million?" Because it's their own money.
Yeah, well, 100%. Actually, Brooks taught me that. And thank God he showed me exactly how that system works.
Now, and if you look at a regular sale that I call the equivalent of the Old Glory sale, right up the street here, Goshen yearling sale averaged $15,800 yearly.
Yeah.
This year. Okay. That's reflecting what where you are in New York State. That's the structure here and how strong you want to consider this breeding program, right?
Well, those guys that did New York, those leaders, they dropped it to its knees.
Oh, I know that.
I used to go to those ag fund meetings, and there weren't any horsemen there, and it was just almost a joke. Those, they vote themselves their races. They vote the more breeders awards, more stallion awards, more this, more that.
Oh yeah,
And
they're insulated with themselves. It's their own little party here.
Oh yeah, they were so mad
And
when they wanted to give more for the county fair, so the little guy might be able to make a few bucks to buy you.
And that's my point again. While you don't have the little guys that can fill cards at those upstate tracks that are hurting,
100%.
That's mostly where they're from.
It's they get mad at me for being pretty outspoken about that, and they'll say it's not their job. But you know what? It's not our jobs to watch you kill this industry. So maybe all of them can step up.
Well, I want to wrap this.
Maybe all of them.
I'm going to.
It's disgusting, Mike.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up with something that you and I disagree on, and I'm going to look right into the camera and say it again. I think with what's going on right now, that the easy fix to lead the way as the example of what all the commissions should be doing is that useless individual you call a president at the United States Trotting Association. Because I know we've gotten into this, you and I, but they have the power, like they've done to others, by taking away your membership as per their own rules. You don't even need them right now with their SRIF bullshit, okay?
Right.
To do the job of what Delaware has done for you, along with AGCO, who in writing says there's full reciprocity, and Standard Bred Canada. Why is the USTA hesitating on taking away that one individual's membership right now? Russell Williams, the guy that told me to F off and get out of his effing face when all I wanted to do was keep my 3 less than 5 claimers and have fun with my friend a few years ago.
Right.
And
I understand that, Mike. You know what?
But I know that you've got more of an arm reaching out to them in communications where they don't want to hear from me, because my assertion is always going to be the same. Do your goddamn job.
I understand, but we could go back to presidents of the Yonkers denying people's pensions, denying rights for exclusion.
Yeah, but that's privately owned and da 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 da. That's a different thing. I'm saying
it's the whole industry as a whole.
Again,
the whole industry as a whole.
I thought people thought. Let me interrupt you. People thought, the regular people that talk, not as jackasses online, that hide. I'm talking about the regular people who really mean what they're saying, and they say, well, I thought the federal government was going to. Well, they did. Why haven't they done more? They've done more than you can imagine. You're looking at the problem
there
is.
You go. It says it right on the records. Now the state regulators.
That's it. And now we are there. When I heard
regulators can take this and roll. Do you know, and Mike, this is the truth, all right? Do you know if we were to do a show every day for 3 years, we wouldn't get through it, all right? That's how many, all right? That's how many people. If we did that, it would be 3 years.
Well, that's what was it? Yesterday, I called the USTA and I said, is there a way to speak directly to one of the 2 investigators at SRAF? And they gave me a number, and it turned out to be the Integrity Hotline, which I just laughed. But then when I recorded it and I'm listening to it, I was getting even more angry when it was saying, the United States Trotting Association is committed to integrity. And I just started freaking laughing. I mean, it's just embarrassing. And then I even said I do say, who's listening on the other end? I remember who was listening a few years ago. Happened to me right in front. Yeah, it was right in front of me here at Brew when he was going through it and laughing and then making fun of my nephew's owner who had an issue with race. And he just sat there and laughed. And that started to open my eyes.
Like, he's laughed at too many people for too long. And I think that day's coming. I just like to know why New Jersey covered up as EPO positive. He had an out of competition EPO positive.
Who?
Mark Ford. Ask New Jersey.
Wait a minute. Back up. I'm not going to, I'm going to be careful with myself here, but say that again.
Yeah. Mark Ford had an out of competition EPO positive. It was turned to the commission. All right.
Is there a record of this?
They covered this up. Ask them how the Navarro situation with these drugs got covered up. Ask them. And we'll all know the same answer. And if every horseman doesn't start raising hell, because if it was you, if it was me, our license is for life. All right. They don't want to talk about it. All right. And at the end of the day, if the commissions don't do their job, as long as this pattern continues, there's such things as a RICO action, racketeering, influence, corrupt organization, and you have 10 years. So as Taylor, wait a minute, Mike, as Taylor and the Feraldos and the Fords that all went ahead and sang that same tune in the Northern Virgin but spoke differently, and all those guys that drugged their horses and bought those drugs, don't think that you're not vulnerable. Don't think that purchasing part in this conspiracy that you haven't committed the same crime. So maybe everybody needs to get off their high horse, do their jobs, regulate the industry, and come together as a whole. And before I even finish this, look, Mike, John Campbell had these records. All right.
I don't even want to talk about him.
And as a legend, but he had them.
Because we know about that.
Do you know what it's like knowing that Fanning's partners with Taylor? Do you know what it's like knowing that Delaware made a ruling and you look at the name Saratoga and it's Howard Taylor and Beckwith?
Well, even back to John Campbell.
Maybe that's why people didn't go ahead and give immediate reciprocity, right?
Well, wasn't
they thought it was too big to fail?
Which in my, my opinion is just bullshit. But back to John Campbell and the Hamiltonian Society, if not long ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever, when Jeff Corral said, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. And I was unaware of why he wasn't going to sign the contract in 2027 and beyond for the Hamiltonian. Am I wrong again? That one of the reasons is he was insisting on people who are on his banned list, which we don't have to say the names, be allowed to race in the Hamiltonian and any of the society's events at the Meadowlands?
There you go, because they're all complaining.
Okay,
they're complaining because they got caught and they didn't want the information. Let's put it this way. I'm looking at a transcript, account 1664. Grossman is on that board. Shame on them. But they can't make decisions and they want to back people in a corner.
But
if you ever have a good trotter, or any little guy ever has a good trotter and can earn the money to supplement, you think you can compete against them? Well, come on, you're fooling yourself.
Here's what really pisses me off about that with Campbell and the Hamiltonian Society. And when I saw him out in front of this building, that again, they just admit that with what we know and what happened in the last week now with Delaware Agco, that the Hamiltonian Society is saying, yeah, we don't care. They can race in our crown jewel event.
Oh yeah.
And you wonder why harness racing is a joke.
Well, you wonder why it is, but look, I'm looking at all those stake races. One case is in the winner's circle with his brother. All right.
Who?
Why? So, everybody knows,
Anyway.
and it goes back even to that, even that Tiger decision, right?
All right, let's not muddy up too
Everybody
much.
knows.
I know, but let's just stop here, okay?
Okay.
You think it
Mike,
over. I mean, this,
Thank you.
like I said, you and I have been mulling it over. Like I said, we go back and forth. We've gone months without, speaking, because again, and this is something I always say, in the end, we're on the same side. We see it differently. And everyone is if you really care about the sport, see, I say there's a difference between the industry and the sport. I love the sport. The industry can kiss my ass. All right.
100%.
And the horses are all that matter to me. And it's gotten to the point where the last thing that anyone even acknowledges now are the horses. My battle is different. I'm across the board now, not just harness racing, but
they've never acknowledged just the horses.
And that's why I laugh when I hear things like, the Hamiltonian Society or this bullshit. We could go into so many other things, but I won't. The bottom line is right now, this needs to happen, not next week. It's there. It's in front of everybody. There's no excuses. There's no more hiding it. When is it going to happen that, we didn't talk about other names like the gentleman who's racing at Yonkers Raceway, who had the purchase of 52 bottles of BB3 from Mr. Ford's farm. One invoice, right? Yeah. With the wiretap audio of his phone, but it was a gentleman from down under who was making the calls. All right. Everybody knows who I'm talking about.
And right on the records, we're going to blow it out as sumo, right? It's right on those invoices.
I even remember where he says that he was doing, he was mooching off of another guy at Ford's farm to cover up because he was tired of playing the smoke and mirrors game. Yep. He's talking to Lisa Gianelli with Seth Fishman, and he just wants his stuff. But he had to borrow it off another guy who's stabled at that farm.
Look at all those. You'll be laughing. Someday scroll through all those exhibits and invoices.
I can.
And all those people like Ham Stable, Sackheim, bill it out to them. Those are the owners that just win all those stake races in PA, New York, everywhere.
And now we're living in a time where we got 2-year-olds going 47 and change, and nobody's like, have they gotten this fast? Like, I still can't wrap my head around it, but these things they're pacing through the wire. All right. Like they're 4-year-old, 5-year-olds.
All I can say is look at Sam at Zappenvania with his Aerodesk. He could have,
it is what it is.
EPO.
They
could have run to the mail.
The psychos in New York City doing crystal meth that they're flipping over cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this stuff is just, forget it. Anyway, let's wrap it up here. All right.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. And thanks for at least listening.
I'll get back to you. We'll talk about what we could do next and maybe bringing in some other people together. Because I know you've.
I think so, because so many people.
I know a lot of people that haven't spoken yet, and
they're afraid.
Well, what I'm gonna said to you, and I'll say to everybody else that this thing here isn't for me to sit here and judge in judgment. It's to allow people to talk, and I know a lot of people watch, and
you know what to me it is to educate. All they have to do. Look at those documents, read them themselves, punch the names. And I think probably in the next week or so, all those names that are redacted, I know your names. And I think I'll go ahead and maybe I'll give that to you because it was probably one of the largest homework assignments I've ever done.
All right. Well, whatever happens, happens. I'm hoping that we don't have to do all this and the commissions just do what they're supposed to do. What they're supposed to do by their own charter. It's just in black and white.
Well,
I don't know.
Guess what?
Maybe
We've
I'm
been
stupid.
waiting 30 years for that, right?
Well, we've gotten some movement. The needle moved, as they say.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good night, Mike.
All right. And there you have it. Her and I have conversed back and forth here and there. Started off small when I didn't know. I didn't know what she was doing. I wasn't paying any attention. At that point, I didn't care. And the deeper I got into this, the more I started to find people who were working on it. Freddie Hudson, for example, I'd spoken to him. I didn't know why he reached out to me 3 years ago. So all this kind of coalesced, and it got me educated enough that I started to understand what was going on and how to obtain information. And it's the information that we all knew, that everyone knew existed, but the commissions and the governing bodies refused to acknowledge, respect. You saw what happened last week, and this was what boggles my mind, and why people aren't calling the USTA, even anonymously. If you care about this, or you're on board with this, that there are individuals who are doing what they did, got away with it, are continuing to dominate you, and you have the opportunity to finally make them accountable for what they've done. You have a state that finally acknowledged what was the facts that were obtained and given to us from the federal investigation and the trials, and all the exhibits that are there and available. Any one of you can go on Pacer and research this and download these for pennies and read it yourself, but you don't need to. I did it. She's done it. Another gentleman, I think Freddie was working in Washington. Nobody knew any of this. There were people behind the scenes doing this stuff. The people that I speak to, I'll never divulge who my let's say, I call them intermediates are. But it doesn't matter. Here's the evidence. One state has acted on it. A country, both their organizations, AGCO and Standard Canada, have reciprocated. It is clear as day, as in the record, the rulings, rules, bylaws, charters of most commissions here in the States and the United States Trotting Association, that without any hesitation, like it says in New York, automatic reciprocal action. I don't know any other way to define automatic other than, oh shit, he's banned for the blah, blah, blah in Delaware. We follow up. That's it. Nope, not here. Why? She sees it a different way. I see it another way. I think they're all in bed together, for lack of better terms, so everybody understands it. What good reason is there for them to not act, is what I am trying to say. What good reason is there for them to not punish the people who are destroying the industry that these people are supposed to be the curators of and governors of, like USTA, the commissions, that have the power to eliminate the garbage, and then they don't. My personal opinion on this is they have something to lose. All right. Otherwise, why wouldn't you act? And that's the way I'm going to wrap it up. So I've got some other people that are involved in this. Again, some bigger names. It may be done as a conference. Hopefully this all happens and we arrange this, and then you're really going to see just how much was invested into all this to so far really only go for, which resulted in who went away, licenses taken away, whatever. Okay. And now with what we have, how many people have paid the price that could have gone away, but didn't, but are still allowed to compete in the game? We'll leave it at that. Catch you on the next one. Peace.